सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om everyone. Welcome to this session on Drugdrishya Viveka, the text that we'll be studying for the next couple of months at least. Literally, it means the inquiry into the seer and the seen. And this text was one of the introductory texts taught by Taponji Maharaj to Pujya Gurudev. I had read it somewhere that Taponji Maharaj taught Drugdrishya Viveka and texts like Panchadashi to Pujya Gurudev when he was studying in the Himalayas, not Tattva Bodha as the initial text. So it's a very special text, but also very subtle. That's why this hour is what we have kept for this text. There is a humorous story that goes along with this text that in the first class, it starts with, seen and many seers. Okay, the speaker and many students. But in the 7th or 8th class, the teaching is the seer alone remains, and that literally happens to be true because all the students disappear. So the teacher or the speaker alone remains. So I hope we'll stay motivated throughout the study of this text, and seer and seen both together can do this inquiry. And also, this is an hour such that, I hope all of you are fully awake. Generally, we ask the question, are you with me? Are you understanding or something? I'll also have to add, are you awake, in between to make sure everybody is with me. So with invoking the grace and blessings of Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya Ji and the author of this text, Vidyaranya Swami Ji, and all our teachers, we begin the reflection on this text. The uniqueness of Drugdrishya Viveka is Swami Vidyaranya Ji, who is considered to be the author, we'll talk about Swami Ji a little later, that it never takes anything for granted. It will start directly by analyzing things which we see in and out. The first shloka will start with this understanding or this statement that Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drak. Forms, names and forms are seen, the seer is the eye. So it starts from that level and takes us all the way to the absolute, which is our own true nature. So that's a very unique thing about this text, that it is very systematic in its thought process. Nothing is assumed that this is understood by the student. Second is, this text is very logical. And Vidyaranya Swamiji, his greatness is, he will take very small steps. And it might seem, oh, these are such small steps. But suddenly, he will take a big leap. With those logical understanding, he will make sure that he has taken a very big leap and drawn very profound conclusions from these apparently smaller logical steps. For example, he will analyze the three states of experiences. And he says, if there is one consciousness that doesn't change in these three states of your experience in one day, there is no reason to say this consciousness will change, in several kalpas of creation. Okay, several kalpas means several cycles of creation. This consciousness is ever the same. So you see what he's doing there is he's taking very small steps. So first he will say between waking and dream there is the same consciousness. Dream and deep sleep same consciousness. He says if it's not changing in these three states, what logic do you have to say it changes in any cycle of creation? This I just took from Panchadashi, but what I'm trying to say here is, in the same way, Drugdrishya Viveka also will take smaller steps, very logical steps, and if this logic becomes thorough in my thinking, nobody can shake me then. Most of the sadhakas, right, all of us, we struggle with this point that mind is an object of knowledge. This text will help us understand how mind is an object of knowledge. I am the seer of the mind. This will be proven through logic. But I will have to think over it, dwell over it, internalize it. And once that has happened, then I'm all set. That even if mind is going up and down, I'm able to say, I'm the witness of this mind. So that was the second part, where logic is very nicely woven in and presented before us. Third is, this text very systematically defines what is already experienced. Like how I said, right? Whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we smell, all of those things, Vidyaranya Swamiji will systematically present in front of us. So what happens with that is, even in our mind, we are able to think in that direction. So now I know most of you would be getting ready to go to work. So Vidyaranya Swamiji, if we can tune with his thought process, we can be ever in this contemplative nature, no matter what we are doing. Because he will start with that, whatever we see, and we keep seeing throughout the day. He will start with the experience of hearing. So we keep hearing something throughout the day. So if we can tune with that way of thinking, how do I go from the seen to and turn within and go inside towards the seer? Okay, this is also a very nice, exposition, you call, or thought process that Vidyaranya Swamiji will develop in this text. Once somebody has done thorough Shravanam, has understood what is the essence of Vedanta, once somebody has done sufficient thinking, like how I mentioned about, my own nature and everything else being the seen, the mind, the sense organs, and the world outside, natural progression to this mananam is nididhyasanam. So very helpful pointers are given in this text on how to do Vedantic meditation. So last portion of the text will talk about meditating with eyes closed, but most importantly, meditating with eyes open also. Okay, so it is not devoid of our day-to-day experience, day-to-day life. It is just developing that vision and clarity of thought with which we can, in and through our daily routine, do this meditation also. Okay, so this was just about what this text is going to tell us. Now there is something we can think about, before we go into Drugdrishya Viveka itself. What is the main purpose of Drugdrishya Viveka? In our life, we have many pursuits. Somebody is pursuing music. Somebody is pursuing science. Somebody is pursuing engineering, management, arts. Different pursuits we have in our life. But if I say, find one pursuit out of all of these ones for yourself, then there might be some debate. right? Which one is better? Oh, science is my cup of tea, but not music. Or the other way around. Somebody says, I love music, but science is not something which I'm very much, made for. And even between people, there could be differences. Which is the best pursuit? Some might say, this is the best one. Arts is the best pursuit. Somebody might say, no, something else. Management is the best pursuit. So there could be debate on all these things. In and through all these things, there is something which is undebated, and that is the pursuit for happiness. No matter what pursuit we are doing, the pursuit for happiness is what underlies that pursuit. Either it is work, either it is, any other thing that we take up in life. In and through all of that is this seeking of happiness. But what is our general idea of happiness? It is said there are 4 major categories, in which we can think about how do we become happy. First one is called Manorajya. Manorajya means thinking about something. For example, if I just think about, how it would be to work out in a gym, how nice I will feel when I go and work out in a gym. So that Manorajya itself gives some happiness. Now you can apply it for other things also, whatever food you call or going to a place. Sometimes when you think about those things, that itself gives happiness. Manorajya. Second is when I actually get that thing, when I experience that, when I do bhoga of that particular thing. So if I am first was thinking about going to a gym. Second is actually going and doing that workout in that gym. That also gives happiness. Okay, so this is the second one. First was Manorajya, just thinking about something. Second is actually doing that particular thing. Third source of happiness that we are familiar with is Abhimana. Abhimana about anything, it might be wealth, power, possession, anything. That Abhimana that I have this thing, that gives happiness. Apply to that gym example only. Getting this Abhimana that I am the one who is going to that gym. Whatever it could be, and whatever accomplishments I might have had through that process of going to a gym, that also gives happiness. Okay, this is the third one. What was the first one? Manorajya, thinking about something. Second was doing bhoga of that particular thing. Third was Abhimana, having association with that thing. That also gives happiness. And last one is Abhyasa. Once you get into a routine of something, when you keep doing that thing, when you're able to meet that routine, it gives happiness. For example, going to the gym every day and making sure that I've taken some time out and I go to that workout place and everything, that gives another happiness. Don't get my example wrong. I'm not saying we should not go to the gym or anything. I'm just saying these are the 4 different types of happiness, different ways in which we are familiar of being happy. Manorajya, thinking about something. Doing bhoga, actually enjoying that thing. Having Abhimana of that particular thing. And last one is Abhyasa, developing a routine of a particular thing. So this is our familiar way of being happy. Vedanta comes here and says, we have some fundamental questions to ask. So what are those questions? The first question Vedanta says is, are these sources of happiness independent sources or are they dependent? Meaning, if I want to be happy, do these sources of happiness make me dependent on them, or it gives me happiness in an independent way? So you put in all these things, gym is just an example. You realize it's a dependent source of happiness. Unless I go there, unless I do those things, I won't be able to derive that happiness. Even the thought, the first one, it is dependent on a thought. I have to depend on that thought for being happy. Okay, so this is the first question Vedanta asks. Are these dependent sources or independent sources? Second question Vedanta asks is this available to you all the time or not? Clearly, it is not available all the time. So if the object is not available all the time, my happiness also is not available all the time. Again, I'm saying don't get stuck to the gym example. Apply it to other objects. I just chose a very neutral example so that we can get the idea. Other objects that we are familiar with in deriving joy, Vedanta asks, how long is it available? Is it available all the time, or are there times when it is not available? And the last question Vedanta asks is, this particular object that gave happiness, did it give happiness all the time, or was there a time it gave sorrow also? So clearly, Jim, we can know, it is not all the time it gives happiness. Sometimes the same thing gives sorrow also to the body. Okay, if I do something incorrectly, something, that's the nature of that thing, that what gives me happiness, the same thing will give me sorrow. This also you apply to other things and then see for yourself whether this fits in or not. It's a Manana Pradhana Grantha, right? Means we have to start thinking about these different pointers. So 3 things Vedanta asked, right? What was the first thing? Is it dependent or independent? Second is that source of joy, object of joy, available to you all the time or not? And third was, did that object give you joy all the time, or was there times when it gave sorrow also? So now all the 3 questions we say no, 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 all the 3 are in negative. Then Vedanta doesn't leave us there. Vedanta says there is a source of joy which is independent of anything. We don't have to depend on anything to, be happy. There is a source of joy which is available to me all the time. There is no time that this source of joy is not available. But most importantly, the last one is, it is always a source of joy. There is never a time it becomes a source of sorrow. Now this student asks, what is that thing? So Vedanta says, that is Sakshi. The witness of all my thoughts, that is of this nature. What is its nature? Its nature is of happiness, but not dependent source of happiness, independent source of happiness, that happiness which is available to me all the time. But most importantly, it never becomes a source of sorrow. It always remains as its own nature. Now the student, is a thinking student. He's not ready to accept this answer. He says, this is exactly contradictory to my experience right now. You tell me I am the source of joy. I don't see that I'm even close to it. And you say it is available to me all the time. But I see myself going up and down, Sometimes I become sorrowful. Sometimes there is joy. It's like a roller coaster ride. What are you saying that it is all the time of the nature of happiness and so on? So then this is where Dribdrishya Viveka comes in. It says there is a mix-up that is happening inside. Okay, this whole purpose was to tell this point. That Dribdrishya Viveka will help me inquire into real I and the reflected I. So that mix-up which is happening inside is the reason why I'm not able to shift my identity to my real I, and I always end up getting mixed up with something else. Goswami Tulsidas Ji says very beautifully, Jada chetana hi granthi parijai Jadapi Mrusha Chutata Ati Katinai. Means between Jada and Chetana, the sentient consciousness, the Sakshi, the witness, and this inert mind, Ahankara, body, everything else, there is a knot. Jada Chetana hi Granthi. There is a knot of the heart which has taken place. Although it is false, consciousness and inert things cannot come together, but it's very difficult. Jadapi Mrusha Chutata Ati Katinai. Okay, with great difficulty, this knot is cut asunder. That is the main purpose of Drigdrisha Viveka. My own nature, which is happiness, that as though has got mixed up now with mind, with body, with the world outside. So Vidyaranya Swamiji will systematically take us within. Technically, this phrase is called Twampada Shodhanam. Okay, what is the meaning of I? That is what is called as the main purpose of Drigdrisha Viveka. Guruji has given a very beautiful example in the book where he says there was a man who misunderstood himself to be his shadow. And wherever the shadow fell, he would weep, because of the things that the shadow had to go through. If a truck drove over the shadow, he would say, oh my God, something has happened to me. And then so on and so forth. And the question Guruji asks in this text is, what will solve his problem? If you give him food, if you give him something else, his erroneous understanding that I am not the shadow will not go away. So the only thing which will solve his problem is knowledge, knowing that I am not this shadow, I am this person. So in the same way, Drigdrisha Viveka will help us to know that my real nature is Sakshi and not this shadow which is appearing as mind and so on. But more practically, if you want to see, right, it is said we are very much used to doing shrama. Shrama means what? Work, getting tired. Drigdrisha Viveka will help us to understand where I should seek Vishrama. Okay, Vishrama means quietude, peace. Instead of seeking it outside, it will say or point us towards our own inner self, which is this place of Vishrama. I'll be able to distance myself from my mind so that I'm able to handle it in a better way. Okay, that is the main practical application, if you call, or if you see what is the prayojanam of studying this text. Both of these things which appear so close, so together, I'll be able to distance myself from it. And of course, in the beginning we saw, because Vidyaranya Swamiji takes a very practical approach, looking into whatever we hear, see, smell and taste, throughout the day, if we understand this thoroughly, we'll be able to switch ourselves back into real I. Externally, we might be doing a lot of things around, but internally, we are always at rest. Okay, this is the, prayojanam, you call a reason, purpose of studying Drigdrisha Viveka. There are more deeper purposes also, but we will discuss it as and when, this text starts unfolding. I had thought we would discuss a little about Vidyaranya Swamiji also, but we'll do it in the next class and then get started with the text. And some of you might be wondering, when are we going to do guided meditation? We will do guided meditation, but the format is going to be according to concepts that are covered. And I won't tell which class we are going to do it, because I myself don't know right now. So whenever we cover one concept and dwell on it sufficiently, the natural progression of owning up what we have dwelt is meditation. So that format we will follow. After a few classes, after a few concepts what we discuss, we will take up guided meditation sessions just to anchor ourselves more in that teaching. Okay. So that will be the format. So we'll conclude here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.